So I think it's worth doing, honestly, at the moment, a video about defense spending. Um, we, of course, in the UK are like in Europe. I think we are like the second highest when it comes to defense spending. I think it's like Germany, us. Then I think it's like France. Um, and I believe it's Poland, although I think maybe France and Poland maybe have switched positions on that. I know that Poland has dramatically increased its defense spending for, well, obvious reasons. But I think this is very, very much a topic that a lot of countries are really looking at this moment in time, thinking what their defense spending should be. And I have made not only the argument here, but even in other in other places, our defense spending, I believe, should be put to like 4%. And the reason is I think a lot of our defense spending doesn't need to go into making new stuff. It needs to go into the actual making of, not building new stuff, but the ability to make stuff, the capacity to build stuff. That is where we have really seen, especially since the Ukraine war, that the capacity was not there, especially in Europe, which should be worrying a lot of people. When we had literally, I think, one factory in the Czech Republic churning out like artillery shells literally night and day, and it was still not able to fulfill the demand for shells that were needed. Yeah, I think we need to be looking at things like that, and countries have done that. For the past couple of years, really since the Ukraine war, you've seen countries do this. Denmark had an artillery factory that then got converted into, I think, officers or something like that. So then they rebought the factory and reconverted it back into an artillery shell factory because they needed that capacity to be able to build shells. And this has been really, really, really quite noted a lot. Soon coming out, there's going to be a big defense review from the new government. I expect that probably to be at some point this year, maybe within the next, maybe 5-6 months. I believe it'll be something like that before we get to see it. But one of the things I can absolutely see it recommending is we need more factories. We don't need potentially, more tanks or things like that. We need more factories because we need more of the stuff, the ability to make the stuff we want. And that is why you've seen, Starmer and recently Schultz, they signed the German UK defense agreement, which has seen Rheinmetall look at, increasing and building a factory over here in the UK. That is good. That increases our capacity. However, I really do want to see us look at this number. And I think there's something a lot of people on the left shrug their shoulders at and don't put enough thought into. And I think this is yet another area where the left lets itself down, because if you talk about the idea of defense spending, no one pretty much on the left really thinks about, well, actually, what should our defense spending actually be? It's kind of an important topic, especially now more than ever, given sort of what we've seen in response to the Ukraine war and how these things operate. So before we go talking more about this as well, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off station link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, a YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So defense spending and what it should be always is a big topic of interest, especially during the Cold War. Britain's defense spending, or at least its percentage of the GDP, was roughly between, I think, 8 to 7%. So historically, especially during the Cold War, a lot of countries were very high, of course, for very obvious reasons during that. However, that, of course, eventually came down, and we sort of leveled off around, I think it was 1.6, 1.7, I believe, was roughly where we would sort of go around. However, we are, of course, part of NATO, as a lot of course, European countries are. And in the NATO treaty, it does stipulate that, countries have to make a commitment to, 2% of, defense spending. And this was one of the few areas where Donald Trump was calling out NATO countries saying, you are not fulfilling, your commitments. Why are we paying all this money when you guys are also part of NATO, quote, not paying your way? Now, it was a very bad way to go about it. Obama, prior before him, had actually done a lot better job at this. That's probably why Trump had decided to pick up on this, because he knew he could sort of, quote, get a better deal. I doubt it, but countries were already sort of, increasing their defense spending anyway. Trump, of course, took the credit for that rise in defense spending during his his administration, and now here we are entering another Donald Trump administration, and now he's calling for NATO countries to fulfill a 5% defense spending. Now, going from 2 to 5%, that's quite that's quite a lot. And bear in mind, 5%, we've got to remember these sound like small numbers, but you are talking in the millions, if not billions, of extra dollars going on here. And what Donald Trump, I think, is really hoping to do with this by trying to push for this increase in defense spending is he hopes Europe is going to turn around and start buying more stuff from America if, of course, we all commit to this, 5%. However, once again, seems to be the Donald Trump tactic of here's the most extreme position. Well, really, what I want is here. And there are talks on the table that Donald Trump actually wants a pledge from all NATO countries to go to 3.5%. While he's talking openly about everyone should go to 5, but in fact, what we've been hearing is that now there's potentially a compromise where he wants countries to pledge to a 3.5. But once again, this would mean that there's more money to be spent on defense. And he's hoping that will get spent in, American factories over in America to buy, stuff for American defense contractors. However, this isn't necessarily going to be the key, because this seems to be the key thing of Donald Trump, that he thinks that if you do something, then you have to rely on America. You have to spend your money in America. You have to sort of go with that direction. But when it comes to sort of the arms industry, particularly over the last couple of years, Europe and its arms industries are doing absolutely amazing when it comes to sort of selling and producing weapons, even rivaling a lot of another American companies. And only those American companies really doing well, obviously because of America's very overbloated defense spending budget. However, with, of course, certainly since 2022, and really the realization that a European strategic autonomy has to become a thing, you are seeing the countries that have increased their budget, most notably places like Poland, buy more stuff, not from America, but from European companies in particular. And this, I guarantee you, at some point in the future, in the next couple of years, Trump is going to turn around to like these NATO countries and say, you've got to buy more stuff from us. Or he's going to try and find some sort of way to force NATO countries to buy more stuff from America. However, that's probably not going to happen because the European defense industry has, and I think should become, an even bigger talking point about what it is, what it should represent, and of course, how more Europe as a whole really needs to look at its defense spending and defense of Europe as well. Of all these countries sort of coming together, especially for the next couple of years, where, well, we really can't rely on America. So Yeah, it's kind of, I think, over the next couple of years, going to become, I think, another big topic. Trump is absolutely going to sort of, poke his nose into any of these topics, any of these subjects. Absolutely so on this. Um, but yeah, let me know what you think, because this is kind of an important question. Where should defense spending, what should like the UK's defense budget spending or be? You know, currently I think we are on track for we are, I think, over the 2% budget now, I think, off the top of my head. Um, but where should it be? Do you agree with me that it should be 4%, to rebuild capacity? Where should we, be, putting our money? Should it be maybe going into sort of the Royal Navy, into the RHS, into the army? This is the big, of course, topic of conversation all the time. Even when you do increase the money, who gets what? So those are even more important questions about, what we should be doing, what we should be looking at. And I think especially you were probably looking um, at things like, RAF, looking at long range, missile detection systems, interception systems, probably looking at, again, those exact things for the Navy as well, especially for the sort of the defense of the UK, but also looking at striking capabilities as well. So maybe new planes, maybe new ships. Army probably will be looking at something as well, maybe a lot of anti-drone technology, as well as investing in drone technology themselves, because it's not just things like drone striking capability, but the recon ability, the information, counterintelligence, all the things that drones, especially during the Ukraine war, have really been providing. And I've talked before about how, when the Ukrainian troops come over to train, under the British have learned from the Ukrainians about their drones and their experience that they have been having with their drones as well. So that is, again, an important information, sharing capability that we've had on that. So let me know what you think down below. But it is, I think, probably, certainly, maybe this year, maybe even next year as well, probably an important topic that does get discussed at some point. If not, I think, like I say, at some point, Donald Trump will stick his nose in. And of course, as always, in the Trump fashion, it'll be a bull in the china shop type of scenario. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.